What's up, friends? Today we are here with the Meepo Envy. I've had this board for quite a while now, and it's been a pretty good time with it overall. But today we're here to review it, and this will be a full 100-mile review, and we'll be going into some pros, cons, the PSPEC score, and the RBEM score. So make sure you stay to the end to see how it compares to all of the other boards that I've reviewed. Before we get into the details, I'll just give you a quick summary of what this board is. This board is a great mid-tier option at an affordable price that gives you a great ESC, decent range, and a good set of quality hardware. So if you're looking for an upgrade from your Meepo V5 or something cheaper like that, this is definitely a great option, and I think a lot of people are going to find a lot of positive points in this board. Now let's go into a couple pros, things that I like about this board. First off, it has got a really great price to smiles ratio. That's what I'm going to call it anyway. This board is so much better than the Meepo V5 that I previously reviewed that in that review I said you should probably just buy this board. So what about this board makes it so much better? Well, if we're comparing to the Meepo V5, pretty much everything. But if you're comparing to some other competitors, those things become a little bit slimmer. Now, first off, the quality of the hardware on this is much better than the Meepo V5. We've got full metal motor mounts with metal guards on them. We've got nice forged trucks. We've got good quality enclosures, a nice sturdy deck, better bushings, better wheels. Pretty much everything is better than the V5, in my opinion, even the deck. And the deck is not my favorite part of this board. So, number one though is the power is much better. This thing has a really smooth Hobbywing ESC, and if you're familiar with Meepo, you'll know that most of the time they do LingYi ESCs, but in this board they've got a Hobbywing, and I think it was the right decision. This is a really great, smooth, predictable ESC for a mid-power board. And we'll go into some of the details of how that power looks in acceleration and braking and stuff later, but it's very easy to ride, very smooth, and a significant upgrade from the Meepo V5. However, it has pretty similar performance to boards in this price tier like the Flex Pro and probably the WowGo Pioneer X4/X5. I haven't tried them yet, but I imagine that it's similar performance. Now, for the power that it puts down, it does a really good job, and it's a stark difference from how the power is put down in the Meepo V5 with that LingYi ESC. Now, this is partly a personal preference thing, but that's one of the things I like about this board. Another thing that sets this board apart from some of its other direct competitors is that it does have a pretty high top speed. I was actually able to achieve my full top speed of 34 miles an hour on this thing, and that's definitely a bit faster than the Flex Pro and similar boards that typically top out around 28. And if we look back a couple of years to back when boosted was a thing, and if you notice the title of this review, I'm calling it the budget boosted board. Well, this is a whole different world of speed compared to the 22 miles an hour that boosted boards used to do. So if you want a little bit more top speed than some of your other competitors, this could be the good option for you. And even with the new X-Way boards, they're barely edging out 31. You do lose a little bit of torque, so you can re-gear this if you want to have a little more torque and take down that top speed. But with the gearing that's on here right now, I think it does pretty well. If I recall, I think this is a 2.3 gear ratio. It's pretty small wheel pulleys when you compare it to some of the other boards out there. But overall, great top speed when compared to other competitors. All right, we've got a couple things that I don't really like as much about this board. They're kind of nitpicks in a way, but first off, the deck on here, I think it's just too stiff. The Flex Pro is definitely the best Chinese or foreign market deck that I've stood on in terms of flexible decks. This one is good, and it definitely works, but it's not as comfortable. It doesn't flex quite as much as the Flex Pro one, and the construction of it is completely different. This is a like 8-ply bamboo, 1-ply composite, so it's a completely different flex profile, and it's kind of on the stiffer side, so you feel bumps a lot more, you feel vibrations a lot more. It's still comfortable and it'll still get you around, but it definitely feels like maybe it was designed for heavier riders. I think people enjoy it for the most part, but it's a little bit more on the harsh side. All right, the other thing that could be improved on here is the range. Now, we'll go into the range in a couple of minutes here, but the 12S2P of P42a in here, I expected this to perform like a significant amount better than the Flex Pro. It ended up actually getting almost the same range. So with that around 14-mile range, again, you'll see in a minute, it's definitely good, but it's not keeping up with some of the other competitors like the Voyager, and that could be on purpose since the Voyager is at a higher price point. But I would like to see them bump up the range. Maybe since this is a lower power board, they could use a higher capacity cell in the future, maybe like a 5,000 milliamp hour cell, and still be able to get that discharge that they need. But we'll see. It's kind of up to Meepo. Overall, the range is okay, but I think that's something that could be improved in the future. Last thing, a couple usability things. First off, the remote has this nice green lanyard on it, and for people with the really weird problem of having a ton of boards, it's really easy to pick this one out of my remote pile over there. You can see there's a lot of, right there, there's a lot of black handles. This green one sticks out, makes it really easy to grab, really easy to find on the ground or in your jacket or whatever, your backpack if you can't find it in there. Pretty basic remote. A lot of the Hobbywing ESCs use this, as well as the Ace decks are pretty similar in shape. And the WowGo that I have is actually a very similar shaped remote as well. Decent, but not the best ever. Other thing, we got this chunky charger. This is a 4 amp, I believe a 12S 4.5 amp charger. This will charge your board up in 2 hours. And that's pretty quick as it goes for these style of boards. Usually they're 3 to 4 hours, but you do sacrifice a bit in portability with this thing. So I don't know if the GAN charger from Meepo is compatible, but that's definitely smaller. However, since I'm usually charging at home, I prefer the faster charge speed, so great job on Meepo for that one. All right, let's go ahead and jump straight into the PSPEC score. If you've not seen this before, be sure to check out one of my other reviews to see the explanation, but it's basically a couple of different categories that judge the entire board objectively on its performance. So first off, we got the acceleration category, which is a split between the 0 to 20 test and the 100 meter sprint. In the 0 to 20 test, the Envy did average, coming in about middle of the pack with a 4.09 best time. Nearby are the Aries X1, the Atlas Pro, and the Flex Pro. I am curious if my Flex Pro time could be improved, so I'm probably going to redo that in the near future and double check with my Draggy just to make sure, because some of the old times I have are from my GoPro and frame counting. But in any case, it did fairly well, coming in about middle of the pack. As far as the 100 meter sprint goes, I was expecting it to do a little better with the higher top speed, but it came in middle of the pack again with a 10.5 second 100 meter sprint. Nearby are the Flex Pro and the Aries X1. Interestingly enough, the Flex Pro had a faster 100 meter time, which means that the acceleration curves from 20 to 30 or whatever are different on the two boards. And that kind of makes sense because the ESC is very similar and the Envy has a worse gear ratio, making the ESC work a little bit harder. But both of those pretty decent, kind of middle of the pack. Again, we have to set our expectations as this is a fairly affordable board. Next up we have braking, and again it did fairly well, kind of the upper middle pack, coming in with a best of 23.3 on feet. Nearby are the Atlas Pro and the Flex Pro. Again, the Flex Pro is a pretty similar competitor. I wish I had the Walgo Pioneer, but I haven't gotten my hands on that one. That would be cool to get in here one of these days. Hopefully Walgo will be able to send me the X5 because that has some pretty unique features, and I think I would love to take a look at that. So with braking out of the way, we can move on to the top speed, and it did a lot better top speed wise here. It's again upper middle pack just because there's some DIYs in here, but the Envy comes out at 34 miles an hour, and that's pretty fast for a urethane board with a flexible deck. Not too flexible because it's a fairly stiff bamboo deck, but 34 is a pretty good top speed, and it edges out the Atlas Pro at 29, the Walgo 3E, the Flex Pro, and other similar boards. Next part is the range, and for the range on this board, I don't think I have any range test footage for this one, but I have the numbers here, and the range of the the Envy came out to 14.58 miles. That's pretty decent. I have my new chart of board range versus advertised here, so I'll put that up on screen. And the Envy is advertised at 24 miles of range and came in at about 14.58, which is pretty much the same as how the Flex Pro did, which is, again, very similar competitor, albeit at a higher price. So there's your range numbers. Again, I don't think I have any range test footage, but it went pretty smoothly. The way these Hobbywing ESCs taper off is pretty smooth. It did keep its top speed, well, at least on my range tests, the top speed is 25. I was able to keep 25 most of the test until the very end. It did make it up the hill in the range test twice, and then it continued until it died close to the start line. So pretty good stuff. I'm impressed with how well it did. But again, I kind of was hoping that the P42As would do better than the 40Ts that are in the Flex Pro, although it's only 200 milliamp hours more per cell. I was really hoping it would do a little better just because I like Molicels, but it didn't, so oh well. But that is all. Oh, and there's one more. Sorry, the torque of the Meepo Envy is a best of 15.56 Newton meters. Now, this is pretty interesting because the torque is all measured the same with a crane scale, and if you look at the nearby competition, you've got the Defiant one, the DIY own board that I made, and the Flex Pro actually has a lot more. That is interesting, but again, we had different gear ratios, and this one's giving us a little more top speed, so kind of it's just like priorities. The Flex Pro will feel different than this one in different areas of the acceleration range, but at the end of the day, they're very similar, and some people probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference. So this is, again, middle of the pack, but fairly good for a board of this price point. So when it comes down to the total PSPEC score, what do we got? The Meepo Envy comes out to a total score of 38.5. Now, this is fairly middle of the pack. It's actually pretty much right in the middle, but we again have to recall the price here. And if you notice the boards nearby, Flex Pro is a little bit under it. The Atlas Pro is a little bit above it, and Defiant one is quite a bit above it. And then Flex ER is below as well. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the performance. 38.5 is a decent score to get. And as we get more of these boards of this caliber and this sort of price range style on here, it'll all make a little more sense. We'll have the Walgo 3E coming in on here pretty soon, and the X-Way Flex 2 Pro will be on here soon as well. So make sure you get subscribed and keep an eye out for those. If you're liking this with all my data, be sure to leave a like below. I always don't like asking, but people forget to do it, and I want to know if you guys like these videos. All right, as you guys may be familiar, I do have two ways that I score these boards. The PSPEC score was the objective score, and now it's time for my opinions. The RBEM score is a whole summary of the board, and we're just going to go through one category at a time. So first off, we got build quality. For build quality, we get a 8 out of 10 on the Meepo Envy. Now, there's not really anything on here that I have an issue with. And if anything, some parts are higher quality than other competitors, like these full metal motor mounts / guards. On some of the other boards, these have a plastic cover on them that gets beat up, and these metal ones are super sturdy. There's no vibrations when you ride the board, no weird clattering sounds. Everything is screwed on tightly. There's these metal reinforcement plates on the enclosures that both look nice and help keep the enclosure in one piece. We've got bumpers on the back and on the front. We've got high quality trucks with nice finish. We are missing foam grip tape on the top. Some people don't like that foam grip tape, but I actually do like it, and I think it could help alleviate some of the harsher feeling of this deck if you were to add it on here. Again, very subjective, but I do like it. Overall, high quality plastics, good heat sinks, these guard plates, everything's just built well. I really don't have any complaints. The remote is good, pretty much the same as every other Hobbywing remote of this type. But 8 out of 10, pretty good job to Meepo for that one. The deck, I did say that it's not my favorite deck, but it is still pretty good. The width is good. My feet don't hang off of it very much. The flex is there. It helps absorb some big bumps and vibrations, but it could be better. You compare this to the Flex Pro, I like the Flex Pro deck better. So we came in a little bit under that at 8 out of 10 for the deck. So pretty good. Again, I don't really have any huge problem with it. I just think it could be a little bit better in the flex department. Next up is the remote. Now, this remote is fairly basic. I'll put some B-roll on screen since you're not going to be able to see it very well. But you've got all the necessities of a screen remote. You got remote and board battery segmented into 5 segments, so that's 20% per segment. You've got your odometer, you've got your trip, and then you got your direction, your speed mode, and you can go into the settings by pressing the power button 5 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But it doesn't work sometimes. I don't really know why. This was the case on my V5 remote as well. But you got cruise control, you got some other functions. You can switch between kilometers an hour and miles per hour. But really, it's not the most advanced remote. It just gets the job done. It's fairly comfortable, but it's on the larger side. So definitely a place where they could improve in the future. I know X-Way made a huge improvement with their new Rexus remote. Maybe Meepo will come along with a much better screen remote in the future as well. Definitely something I would like to see upgraded. So it gets a 7.8 out of 10, but could be worse. Next up, we have the ESC. And like I was saying earlier, the performance of this ESC is good. It's very smooth. The braking is smooth. There's a little bit of tunability in terms of braking power when you go into the configuration settings and speeds and whatnot, but it's not on the level of the A-Stack remotes. Those have a lot of configurability, but it does the job. And this ESC can't be controlled by any app or anything at this time. Like X-Way, they have their app. I believe Wowgo has an app that they're developing, but nothing for this one. But the ESC is good overall, has good power, and it's really easy to use and reliable. So it gets an 8.2 out of 10 for that one. The trucks and bushings on this board are so much better than the Meepo V5. These trucks are great. I believe they're 45-degree front and rear. I'll check the website and put it on screen. I think they're 45 degrees, and they're really comfortable. They're not as carvy as the Flex Pro, but that could be a combination of the bushings and the trucks together. But they're super fun to ride. You can go all the way up to top speed without getting speed wobbles, if you know what you're doing, of course, on these stock 96A bushings. So we've got 4 barrels, board side and roadside, with cupped washers on both sides. If you find that this board is too tight, you can always flip over the roadside washer to give them a little bit more squish, but I found that I can do most of the corners that I need to on the stock setup, and honestly, I didn't even adjust that much from out of the box. I probably just tightened it down a little bit for the speed testing and then got used to the responsiveness. But you can always go to Riptide bushings, and I always recommend that to people because they just end up being better in the long run. But for stock bushings, these are good. Not the best stock bushings that I've tried though. So for trucks and bushings, we get 8.2 out of 10 again. As for wheel options, we're giving it a 3.7 out of 5. Now, the wheels on here are pretty good. The stock ones are pretty good. The wheel options are okay on here. You also do have to be aware that there is a large bearing seat for the pulley in here. So if you're buying wheels later, you're buying different pulleys later, you have to make sure you get ones that will fit onto this bearing seat in there. I believe it's a 12 millimeter bearing seat, something like that, to support the pulley. So you can change to anything that Meepo offers. And if you buy anything from Cloud Wheel, they always have really great pulley options. So honestly, if you're looking at any Cloud Wheels, you're set. You can pretty much put on any of them. I even put on up to the 120s. However, you do have to take off the belt guards for the 120 millimeter wheels, otherwise they will scrape. So just be aware of that. You can put on to 120s, and I don't think you get a deck bite, but you will get bite on this wheel guard, which can come off with two, it looks like two M4 bolts. Pretty easy, but yeah. Other thing to know on here for the wheel options is that this runs extremely small belts. 245 millimeter is probably the smallest belt that I've ever seen on an e-skate. I want to say Boosteds back in the day were 230 millimeters, but those were 3Ms, which is the height of the tooth. But this one is 245 by 5M by 15 wide, and I don't have any of these around. I have lots of 255s, lots of 265s laying around from other boards. These ones are extra short. So when I broke one of these, I had to order them from V-Belt guys. So just be aware, if you want to carry spare belts, make sure you get 245s because the longer ones won't fit. If you do end up upgrading to a larger pulley or a different wheel, then of course you'll change the belt to a larger belt. But the stock one is pretty small. So all that to say, the score for the wheel options is a 4 out of 5 because you really can put most wheels on here. You just can't put any pneumatics because they're too big. Next up, we've got water resistance, and I gave this a 4 out of 5. All right, editor Ryan here. I am actually going to reduce this down to a 3 out of 5. The website states that it's IP56, but it's sort of an overarching FAQ section for the entire Meepo website, so I don't know how much I trust that, but going off of what I see, there are gaskets under each of the enclosures that are rubber. You have your strengthening bolt supports for the through bolts, which allows you to get a good amount of pressure on those gaskets and seal it in. The battery up front is kind of well sealed. It's at least covered in heat shrink, but there are exposed electronics behind where the charge port and the battery level indicator are. So the water resistance is okay, but I've seen better in other boards. Could be a little bit better in the future if they go for a higher IP rating. Customer service, I'm giving it a 3 out of 5, pretty much across the board for Meepo. Can be hit or miss, but most people get what they need, I think, at the end of the day. And this is kind of just based off market sentiment and some of my forum friends and group chats and stuff like that. Overall, Meepo does okay, but they could be better. I think A-Stec is really up there in terms of high quality response and customer service. X-Way is pretty similar to Meepo. I can't remember what I rated them. Yeah, 4. Yeah, it's kind of hit or miss for most of these Chinese companies, but Meepo does a good job overall. So they get that 3 out of 5 rating. Now, one of the higher ratings on here is the price and value. Right now, the Meepo is $650 on a back-to-school sale. Normally, I see it listed for $699. It says the normal price is $799, but normally I feel like it's at $699. So, pretty great deal at $650 for this level of performance, this level of quality, and this well put together package. I think the price and value ratio is really good, so I gave it a 4.7 out of 5. Like I said in the title, budget boosted board. I think that this is a great alternative for someone looking for a mostly flexible and reliable board. I haven't seen too many people having issues with the Meepo ESCs on this one. I've seen people have issues on the Voyager as well as with the battery, so hopefully they fix those for the Envy. But yeah, pretty good overall in terms of price and value. And if you only have $650 to spend, you probably can't go wrong with this one, especially with Meepo's warranty and customer service that they have available to most people. And Meepo is one of the biggest names in the market right now, so chances are there will probably be someone local who's worked on a Meepo board before or knows someone who can work on it for you if it were to break in the future. Bringing all these scores together, we come out with a total RBEM Composite score of 54.9 for the water resistance adjustment, and that's 6th place overall. And I think it's going to hold that spot for a little while. Its main competitors are the Revel kit, shockingly, the Atlas Pro, Nomad N1, Aries X1, and Flex Pro. So there's definitely a couple categories in here that Meepo could improve on. The deck and the remote and a little bit here and there. But overall for the price, it's a pretty great score. This is one of the highest scoring budget boards in the list. So pretty great. Hopefully that is valuable to you. I think that this score is something that a lot of people will find valuable. So hopefully you agree with my rating. Let me know what you think of this rating down in the comments, and if you agree with the different ratings that I gave throughout the categories. But for now, go ahead and do an outro. Alrighty, like I said at the beginning of the video, I think this board is an excellent upgrade for anyone that's coming from a Meepo V5 or a cheaper board of this style, that being the urethane flexible board market. And there's a lot of options now. We got ASEC, Propel, Meepo, Flex, X-Way. There's tons of them. Ison board. Yeah, I don't know what I'm saying. There's a ton of options out there. I think the Meepo Envy is a really great mix of price, value, and quality. So I would say that this is a buy. Definitely a good board to get. And let me know what you think down in the comments. If you like this review, leave a like below. And thanks so much for watching. Stay safe, keep on riding, and peace out.